love, I'm Davide Mengoli, and today we're going to explore a small but very important town in the peninsula of Salento. We're in a town called Noha. How can I start talking about a town in Salento without having a Salentino coffee? The almond milk. It's delicious. Noha, a small little town, very close to bigger towns that you probably have seen on the map, like Galatina. But it's interesting, this town, just like many, many towns, they've been here for thousands of years. The name of this little village wasn't Noha, it was probably Noha. But later, a very wealthy family called Noha, with an H, moved into the area. And maybe the town changed the name as a result of this family moving into the town. But just like many other towns in Salento, so much wealth, so much money were moving around from Roman time and even before the Roman time. But where were this money coming from? Well, through this little walkthrough and the history, you will see how the money was generated in this little village or town in the beautiful peninsula of Salento. Let's go and explore together. No, davvero? This is our present. He's giving it to us, but we're going to do a video. No, vieni signore, we're going to do a video. He is the man, one of the only few remaining people in the whole entire peninsula of Salento that still makes. He's giving us this as a present. So this is actually how I grew up. This is how you went to collect the figs or the fruit. And this is called panaro in dialect. Panaro, I'm sure Ludovica will put it down at the bottom. If you follow the channel, would you like to see a video where I go and see this man while he's making this? Let me know, leave a comment below. Grazie. Grazie. Many people keep saying, why Puglia, why Puglia? Well, it's true, all over Italy you find extraordinary architecture. But here, apart from the architecture, you find extraordinary people. We just started this video with a little coffee and Antonio hasn't left us. Now he's given us a gift and he's offered to do a video. Now, where else in the world you'll find generous people like that? I think it's fantastic. And that generosity also comes through the construction. You see, this is a totally open, but this also makes you understand exactly how they were constructed. All the weight of the star-shaped ceiling are supported by what they call the appesa, which they're normally on the side. In this particular case, it's in the middle, forming a column. What a fantastic way of building, and this was happening hundreds of years ago. We did say at the beginning, where did the wealth come? And anybody who follows my channel probably heard me saying this many, many times, but I don't know how many times you've actually seen it. So we are going down into the dungeons. Now we are about 5 meters underground. Already these wheels should start giving you an idea of where we are going. There is always time to have a good break. I haven't said really what this is yet. This is an oil mill which potentially goes back to the 9th century. And before I start going into what was happening down here, let's mention that people that came down here to work, they were under the ground and they will stay under the ground for a period of 5 to 6 months. They will never go back up again. And they will have a break. I was going to say coffee break. No, they will have a break where they will have some water, maybe some wine, maybe some dried bread, which they could soak in water. And this was the place where they were having the break. But what was happening down here? Well, this is an oil mill that goes back to the Byzantine times. It's underground for several reasons. Back in them days, the frantoi ipogei, frantoio, it's the oil mill. Ipogeo comes from under the earth, from the Greek. They were made under the earth for several reasons. One, because the temperature down here is always constant at 17 degrees. But also, back in them days, this was like liquid gold. It was used to lit up to create light. So it was really fuel. And you can imagine how precious it was. So having it underground would actually save them from people trying to steal it. And in them days, the Turkish, they were constantly attacking this part of the territory. Well, these environments made it a lot more protective. When the olives were getting dropped in from the street, in majority of the cases, using these spaces here, which they're open all the way to the street, these were filled up. Probably here there was a wall, and the liquid and the fluid that was getting produced will filter through, where all these holes that you see scattered around were filled with water. Water was a very important part of the production. Now the olives will go here in the center, where a big wheel, a stone wheel, will go around, and they will use normally a donkey to actually spin the wheel around. Now, wherever the paste that was produced from here, it will go into the press. And here you could see that a press over here, a press over there. The two presses here, the oil would convey into this, and then will go also into there. And the reason of having water is because you can imagine oil being lighter, it will go to the surface, and the Nakiro, which was the only person in charge of the whole operation, was the only one that could actually touch it, will collect it and put it in the jars. All this was happening down here. So when we think of a little town like Noha, you think where all this wealth came about in the 10th century or even earlier. Well, it came from the production of olive oil and other produce that the soil was producing, very fertile here in Salento. This frantoio, this oil mill, is under one of the most important buildings in Noha, which is the castle or the Palazzo Baronale, which we will explore in another video. Then when the oil was getting produced, what would it do with it? Well, there was a big commerce also happening up at the top, on the surface, on the main routes of the Romans, and then after. So the big masseria, or these big centers where the oil or the grain, the figs were getting delivered and then sold or transported, was happening on the surface. So I would like now to share with you a beautiful masseria, which is probably one of the key elements of Noha. This was where everything was happening on the surface. This is Masseria Colabaldi, but it wasn't always like this. It went through some changes. The first settlement in the little village of Noha, well now it's called Noha, was this construction behind me, built around the year 0. Can you imagine? More than 2,000 years. But the building changed through the course of the centuries. The building continued to grow, and in the 7th century, the Brazilian monks that were running away from the Middle East because of what was happening over there, they settled in Salento. And this was a monastery. So attached to the next building, another part of the building was attached and grew. And with that as well, also the techniques that the Brazilian monks were bringing into this land, which was the art of olive oil making. More changes took place. At the end of the 15th century, a very well-known family, the Colabaldi family, coming from the north, from Tuscany, purchased and built another part of this, creating this masseria. You can still see the crest of the family right at the top. At the end of the 18th century, finally the Colabaldi masseria comes together. Well, can you imagine 2,000 years of history of joining pieces together to live this majestic building on the doorstep of Galatina, very close to Galatina. This was a Roman road. What also changed was the access to the Colabaldi, which used to be from the other side, and in the 1800s it changed and it was actually attached to the Roman road that connected Galatina to Noha. The presence of a very wealthy past is also there in the little village of Noha, with the abundance of beautiful buildings, amazing facades, and also a castle. Now I would like to take you there so we can explore the churches and the towns of Noha. Another very special piece in this town of Noha is the famous well of La Trozza. This was the well that was providing water to the entire town. People come here to collect their water. Still here. It wouldn't be an Italian town without a church, and Noha has several churches, but this is the Chiesa Madre or Matrice, the main church, dedicated to the Archangel Michael. An abundance of beautiful paintings in a very Baroque style. Let's go and explore it. And after exploring one of the many towns that makes the peninsula of Salento so beautiful, I think it's time to have some nice Italian, or actually some nice Salentino food. Mamma che What is it?
This is our kete pasta with turnips, anchovies and crumble of taralli.
Grazie.
No? Buon appetito.
Well, the day couldn't have been better. We're just finishing with the classic orecchiette con le cime di rapa. You may have heard this if you've seen one of these amazing TV programs. Have you enjoyed the history and the energy of this little village in the heart of Salento? I'm sure you have. Not the largest town. It's got a lot of big towns. It's surrounded, but the element of the history and this beautiful castle where we've decided to end our beautiful walk through Noha is a testimony of how beautiful these places are. So if you are visiting Salento, make sure a glass of rosé wine, maybe in the setting of once upon a time a castle and now a beautiful place. Would you like to know more about this place? Maybe in the next video. Until then, thank you very much for following the channel. Subscribe to the channel, press the little bell, and stay safe wherever you are.